Welcome back to Learn Your Stripes. I'm Ryan Guillory.
And I'm Michael Moran, and today we're going to talk about pre-snap routines and how to integrate them into our game. Before we get going on that, though, we're going to cover the play we talked about last week. And last week we had a play of 10:37 left in the third quarter, 3rd and 20 for A at the A25. QB throws a forward pass to A87, who's interfered with by B39 at the A38, and the pass falls incomplete. So we'll break this down from a fundamental standpoint. We'll look at high school and college rules here real quick. And in high school rules, we're talking about whether it's a DPI penalty or what the down and distance are going to be, what the game clock status are, and what the play clock status are. So at either level, this isn't too strenuous, but we'll get through it here. We're going to highlight some of the differences between high school and college and why some of the coaches and fans may doubt your enforcement here. In high school, it's going to be a 15-yard penalty. It doesn't result in an automatic first down, and A will have the ball 3rd and 5 at the A40. Game clock is going to start on the snap because of the incomplete pass, and the play clock will be set at 25 seconds. And on the college side, this will be a spot foul because it occurred within less than 15 yards from the line of scrimmage, and we'll have an automatic first down. A will have the ball 1st and 10 at the A38, and that's the spot. And the game clock will also start on the snap. The play clock as well will be 25 seconds.
Yeah, and I think as Michael said, that play is not very difficult for us at either level, but it sort of highlights the differences in rules enforcement between the two and why when you're doing those freshman and JV high school games and you have a pass interference, you'll hear these 7 or 8 people in the stands yelling, why isn't that a first down, or that should be a first down? So that's where that comes from. And that's where those differences are.
Too much TV football, as we say.
This week, as Michael said, we're going to cover pre-snap routines, and we're very, very fortunate to be joined by Steve Martin. When I was a younger official, I went to the IFOA high school clinic here in Indiana, and my clinician the first time that I went was somebody named Steve. And I remember going there, and one of the things that we talked about were pre-snap routines. Again, I was very early on in my career. I knew all the things I was supposed to do before a snap, but I didn't have a process to go through a routine that would get me to where I could do all of those, whether it's a hurry up offense or the like. And going to this clinic was the best thing I ever did in my career. And I got lucky because, again, Steve was my clinician, and it set me down a path towards success. That carried over whether I'm doing high school, whether I'm doing college. And it's useful. 5-person mechanics, 7-person mechanics. If you're doing 6 or 8, you could use it there. Something to do before each and every play that lets us get through our responsibilities. Steve is somebody who, when I get the chance to work across the field from him, JV in the Heartland or whatever we might be doing, it's a chance that I always look forward to because I'm going to walk away that day better than I was before. And I'm certainly going to learn something in the process. So Steve, we thank you for being here, and I'll hand it off to Michael to add on to what I said.
I'm blessed to know Steve as well. I met Steve, I think, back in 2018. I was working a Heartland JV game as well, and just remember showing up, and Steve was warm and welcome and inviting me in and made me feel like a part of the crew already. And I was just, a younger official and had really no idea what I was doing. I think I was a deep wing that day, and first time I ever stepped out, Steve could tell I was struggling, and it was a fish out of water, and he was kind enough. I think it was a halftime. He said, switch me. So I came down to the short wing and he went back, and he just helped coach me through and get me through the game. And fast forward a couple of years, Steve and I are on the same crew now in the Heartland. And again, I'm fortunate enough to work on the sideline with him on a Saturday. And that's a blast knowing that I get to look forward to that. I think we feed off each other really well. But I'm just so lucky to sit there and be able to kind of sit back at times and just watch him work and what he's able to do. But just, again, really lucky to know him, get to spend time with him. And he's always able to take plays and bounce things off. And he's so knowledgeable just about mechanics and movement and just managing the game well. So, Steve, again, we really appreciate having you on here.
Well, thanks for inviting me. I'm pretty thrilled to be here, especially with you two guys. I mean, these guys are good officials, man. So regardless of what they say, they're already pretty good. They don't need my help, believe me.
Thanks, Steve.
Thank you.
But in regards to pre-snap, do you want me to just dive in?
Yeah, I guess I should add before that, as Michael mentioned, they're on the same crew in the Heartland, where Steve works as a line judge and Michael as a field judge. Steve is also a high school official in Ohio, where they also use 5-person mechanics. So from a high school perspective, very similar to what we do here in Indiana. Anywhere in the country, you would have 5-person mechanics. A pre-snap routine is going to be quite important there. So Steve, if you could sort of talk about, I guess, maybe the evolution of how you came up with your pre-snap routine, what the importance is, and how that's helped you throughout the years.
Sure, that's a great lead in because that's exactly where I want to go. Because if you look in your mechanics manual on page 14, it talks about pre-snap routine and also the dead ball intervals. They describe three, but there's two that I'm looking at, and one is from the end of the previous play until the snap, and they kind of divide that into two sections. But I'm going to push those two together, and that's where our pre-snap routine fits in. And item one below that, they have a definition for the pre-snap routine. It says establishing a pre-snap routine is the best way to make sure that when the play from scrimmage is ready to go, you are too, and that nothing necessary has been overlooked in that dead ball interval. That's a great definition for what we're talking about today, and that's right out of your manual. And then it goes into some bullet points with some general terms. And what I want to do is kind of drill down into that, fill that in with some very specific items for line of scrimmage guys, back judge, and I'm going to kind of roll umpire and referee together a little bit too, and we'll just look at a pre-snap for each one of those positions. Okay.
Okay.
The pre-snap routine actually was kind of born about 20 years ago. I went to a Ohio State clinic. Some Big Ten officials putting on a clinic there, and I went to one of the sessions, and there was a deep wing, and I forget what the guy's name was. I'm sure he wouldn't remember me either, but he talked. It wasn't talking about pre-snap routines, but he referred to a pre-snap routine a couple of times. And when I hear pre-snap routine, my head went right to something short that I could do before every play to prep myself for this next play. But what he was talking about was like a page of like 20 to 25 items that he does between every play. It's like stand here, I look here, I do this, I do that, but it wasn't really a pre-snap routine because it's not something that he could do. He could duplicate between every play in that dead ball period. But it kind of piqued my interest, so I took a copy of his and I kind of built one of my own pre-snap routines from that. And I kind of boiled it down to something a little smaller, something I can make portable and carry around here in my head, and do it in the same sequence within that finite piece of time between the previous play and the next play, right? And the first couple revisions were a little clunky. It kind of worked. It wasn't really quite what I was looking for, but I did notice a change in how I was working the game, because what I was doing was I was officiating the previous play. We had our dead ball officiating, and then we start our dead ball activity between that play and the next snap. And essentially what I was doing was I was engaging my mind in preparing for the next play. So there's no brain downtime, for a better term to use, right? So I'm actively working one play, and now I'm actively preparing for the next play. And then at the snap, I'm working that play. So it kept my mind engaged all the way through. So there's no time to go to sleep. There's no time to drift away, start listening to stuff behind you. And you guys see me, they can't see me when I do this, can
they? People say finite time. And what we want to stress too is, we're using the 40-second play clock in Indiana, and Steve, do they use the 40 in Ohio as well?
Yes.
So you don't have 40 seconds to put all this together, right? The ball's down at ideally 32, 33, 34. There you might have 6 to 7 seconds, depending upon the offense. So you really have 10 seconds to get all this going through your head. And I think that's the point we want to drive home, is it has to be something simple that can do quickly.
That's exactly right. And that's kind of where I'm going. But I finally got to say, it took me about a whole season. It was a high school season because I wasn't in college football yet.
You'd mentioned to some extent that going through the routine, it keeps your brain engaged. It keeps you focused on the next play. I've also found, I know that myself, I would have a tendency, if I didn't have the pre-snap routine, I would potentially dwell on if I either made a mistake on the previous play or potentially might have made a mistake on the previous play, that going through the routine, I don't have time to dwell on that, right? So it saves me from that, that whole mental aspect of, focusing on that, then missing something on the next play or the play after that. If I kicked something on one play, it's over because I'm getting into the routine for the next play and we're moving on. So I think that's another benefit there.
That's exactly right. Your mind's engaged. You're too busy to do the right things to worry about anything that bad that might have happened or what people might be saying behind you or yelling behind you, more typically yelling. But that's exactly what it does. And that's one thing that I noticed when I first put this together. And what I feel like I hate to take credit for it, but I don't know anybody else that's using it. It's a pre-snap routine. It's actually a pre-snap routine, right? It's portable. I can carry it with you. It's like the accommodation to your locker. You can haul it around with you. When you walk up to your locker, you can get in, right? Pre-snap routine. I can walk down Main Street in Indianapolis and drinking a Coke, and I can recite my pre-snap routine, right? It's always with me, right? So when I put this together, it's gonna get wedged into that pre-snap period, that dead ball period between the previous play and the snap. It's got to be well defined, and it really has to be defined by whoever's using it. Now, I think a lot of guys are using mine right now, which is absolutely fine. But I think some guys are probably changing. Well, I know some guys are changing some of the verbiage because one of them is "Where's Chris?" Right? Nobody has Chris Beckstead as a back judge, right? So, but it has to be defined by the person that's using it. It's got to be easy to remember. It has to include all your regular snap responsibilities. And I recommend keeping it 7 items under just so that you can manage it. Now, if you have the mental aptitude to manage 8, 9, 10 items, that's great. But you just got to remember, like Michael was saying, it's got to be wedged into this time frame. And if you get down to the end of a half, or if you get a team that goes right to the line of scrimmage and snaps it, are you going to get it done? So you really need to be economical in items that you stick in there. And one of the most important things, once you get something that works for you, put it together and you find out that it really works for you, you have to use it on every play. You have to use it on every play. One more time, have to use it on every single play. That's the part that you got to remember, right? So when I talk to people about pre-snap routines, all I get is these long sheets of 20 to 30 items. That's pre-snap stuff. And the only reason I want to mention that is because if you talk to somebody else, they're going to give you a page full of pre-snap stuff. It's not a pre-snap routine, right? And it's probably great stuff. I'd sit in the locker room and read it at halftime or before the game, maybe, but it's not something. It's not portable. I can't carry it out and go through this list. It's too long, and I can't carry that paper around with me. So I need a pre-snap routine. Okay.
I think we've built this thing up. We're teasing our audience, so I'm ready. I'm excited. I say let's get into it. And
here's my pre-snap routine, Michael.
Yeah, let's start with. You want to start with scrimmage plays, traditional scrimmage plays?
Yeah, I'm just gonna talk. Yeah, I'm not gonna talk about punts and kicks, so that stuff like that will take too much time. But pre-snap routine here. This is my line of scrimmage pre-snap routine. Okay, and I'll get into detail in a few minutes. Okay, but I just want to kind of go down through it. Line to gain, count 11, 4 in the backfield. Where's Chris? I'll describe or I'll explain that later. Everybody stop and then snap, tackle, key, and it may just be snap, tackle. Maybe snap, tackle, key, just depends on what's going on, right? So that's my pre-snap routine. Line to gain, count 11, 4 in the backfield. Where's Chris? Everybody stop, snap, tackle, key. That's my pre-snap routine. So we're talking about a back judge. I am not a back judge, but I think this is a good back judge pre-snap routine. And if you're listening out there, I would encourage you to write these down and use them as a base to build yours from, because I think you're going to find, especially if you're a back judge, I think a back judge really needs one. The previous play's over. We got dead ball stuff's done. Back judge's eyes should go right to the play clock, right? Did they put 40 up and isn't running, right? Go right to the game clock after that. That was an incomplete pass. Is the clock stopped? Count your 11 and signal. Down in distance, what can I expect on the next play? Where's my key? Am I over there or am I over here, right? And then back to the play clock, all right? So again, back judge, play clock, game clock, count, down in distance, key, back to the play clock. And if you do all that, you have all your housekeeping done. Everything's ready. You're ready. The play clock is ready, and you have your eyes on it at the end of your pre-snap routine, ready to go. Any comment on that?
Well, I can't add too much to the back judge there, so
yeah,
I'll defer to the experts on the back judge. But I think from the line of scrimmage, I agree with what you've said. Right? The idea is there's a lot that we're responsible for, but there are a handful of things that you can replicate from one play to the next that actually have time to do it, whether it's a hurry up or whether it's a traditional offense, right? I find, like I said, 5-man as a line judge, we're counting defense, 7, we're counting offense. I find the offense easier to count just because I just look at the linemen in a clump of 5. So I'm really counting to 6 for the most part, right? Whereas with defenses, sometimes you have a 3-man front, sometimes up to 5. And then, depending on nickel packages or dimes, you've linebackers and trying to pick things out. How many cornerbacks are over there? Is there a slot across the field I can't see? So I find offense an easy count, but one way or another, it's just getting that count in and trying to lump together the line as best you can and add on that. And then you're in the process as you're doing that, getting into those other things, like you said, how many in the backfield, identifying line of scrimmage, line of gain, and then your snap tackle back. So it's a replicatable process, down after down after down, whether you have 100 snaps in a game or 200 snaps in a game.
Right. That's exactly right. And it's portable, and I can remember it all day long, right? Well, let's just go down through. And again, I'm talking line of scrimmage mainly because that's where I work. So let's just go down through my pre-snap and how I use it. And I might get into a little too much detail. So Michael, Ryan, just tell me to shut up if I.
No, you're fine. I think we were quiet there because this quorum here doesn't have a lot of back judge experience. At least I don't either. So we were thinking on that, but I think it's great, and it's definitely one thing that even as a deep wing on Saturdays, it's easy to take that and take those little things that you talked about, and everybody can know things like clock, down and distance. So should be part of all of our pre-snaps, no matter where you're on the.
Yeah.
So, go ahead,
so if we go through the first thing, line to gain. Line to gain is nothing more than where's my first down, and I've gotten to the point where if you put a down box down, I don't need to change. I've done it enough. I can tell you the first down. I can do a whole game without chains. I never look at it no matter what side of the field I'm on. I count on my pre-snap to keep my line to gain, right? So, and I do all this talking out loud through the whole game. And I don't know, Michael, if you can hear me on Saturday on those, but I'm talking the whole time. And if I'm not talking, you need to come kick me in the butt because I'm losing my focus. All right. But I talk out loud all the way through the game. If anybody's following me up down the sideline, they probably think I'm crazy. But I'll tell you what, if you have trouble focusing, if nothing else, talk out loud. It'll help, right? But there's my line gain. I got to get to the 32, and if it's 5 yards or less, even if it's second down and 4, I'm pointing at it, and I want the guy across the field to acknowledge that he knows where it's at too, because I don't want to forget it's right there, 4 yards away, right? That's my 32. That's my first down. Your mechanics book and ours and everyone I've ever read says the line judge is responsible for stopping the clock if it's close to a first down, and I respectfully do not agree with that. I think H and L both should know exactly where the line to gain is, and they're both responsible for it. And if they're looking at the chains to find it, then they've lost their line to gain, and that's not a good thing. Okay, and we can talk. This is kind of with the spot stuff. We could do this some other time, but if it's close to a first down. Before I leave the sideline, I already know if it's a first down or not. I know where the first down is. And if I go out there and my referee gives me a little more latitude than some, but when I go out there, I take the ball away from the umpire and I put it down. And if it's not an important first down, if it's just first quarter on their own side of the field, I'll put it down and say, Tom, it's not a first down, and I'll go back. We're not going to measure it, right? If it's a big first down, they're going for on fourth down, or it's the end of a half, it's just a big situation. And same situation, I'll go in and I know it's not a first down. I'm going to go in, stop the clock because I know we're going to measure it, right? I know it's not a first down. I'll take the ball from the umpire, I'll spot it, and I'll tell Tom that this is not a first down, but we should measure this one, all right? And we measure it, right? Same with the first down. If it's a first down, I'm going to go in and the same routine, right? Tom, this is a first down, but we should measure it because it's a big first down. But before I leave the sideline, I already know what it is, right? And I tell my mate across the field, I said, if you want to get a spot, you better hustle because I'm going to get there first and I'm going to take the ball and I'm spotting it. Right. That's just the way I am. Sorry. But that's line to gain, right? First thing, out loud, 32. We got to get to the 32. Count 11. And Ryan, you're exactly right. On Friday, I'm counting the defense. And on Saturday, I'm counting the offense. So if I'm subbing on Friday night somewhere, I'm counting defense and I'm signaling to my back judge. Four in the backfield is an easy one. And I'm surprised how many times it's missed, but 4 in the backfield is an easy one. And I don't even have to count. I can see 4. I don't have to count 4. So I can do 4 in the backfield when I'm doing something else. If I'm looking for my key, or if I'm counting 11, I can see 4 in the backfield. So that's an easy one. Then that takes me to Where's Chris? And the reason I put Where's Chris in there, because for some strange reason, that verbiage makes my mind go where it needs to go. Okay, it gets my head there faster. All right. I don't know why, but if I put who's your key or where's, or is the back edge over there, it just doesn't work. Where's Chris works, so that's what I use, right? It just gets me. I just need to know if my back judge is over there, and I have these two guys. My back judge is over here, then I have the inside guy. I have number 2, right? In this manner. Everybody stop. Out of the huddle, I want everybody to come to an absolute stop. And once they do, if a lineman goes down and a guy goes in motion at the same time, I know I have a problem, and I'm standing there and I'm saying this out loud. He's got to stop. He's got to stop. He's got to stop. And if he does stop, they snap the ball. I got the up flags in the air. I got him. Okay. We never miss. Nick and I. We never miss four in the backfield. We never miss a formation. We never miss a shift. We never miss that stuff because it's part of our pre-snap routine. All right. The last one, snap tackle key. Sometimes just snap tackle. This is my pre-snap actually starts my play progression. Okay. And that's what this is all about. Snap tackle key. So your book says you should straddle the line of scrimmage, and sure. Okay. I'm okay with that. But if you're straddling a line of scrimmage and you can see the ball, but you can't see the slot guy or maybe the tackle, then you have to move. You have to see everybody from the ball out on your side, because if they move, it's not somebody else's call. That's your call. You have to get that. So if I'm standing straddling the line of scrimmage and I can't see somebody, I'm going to move a step or two downfield. And sometimes I'll even cock my body a little bit towards the line of scrimmage so I can see everybody out from the ball out on my side. And once I can see everybody, that's where I'm standing. All right. So now I see everybody. And one more thing. And if that back moves, I tell R he has to get that back, because I'm not going to see him. I'm focused, ball out on my side, right? I may see him, but R's got to get that guy. Okay. We okay so far?
Oh, yeah. I like what you said about don't be afraid to move. I think one of the things that early on in my career, I was so focused on being rigid and being in a position, and I've got to be here and I've got to be there. And I know it's easy to get caught on those lines going across the field, but if you have to take a half step downfield so you can see the line, I'm not a tall guy, so I didn't hit the 6 foot mark. Some of those receivers, even at the high school level, they come get set. They're 6'5", 6'6". They get set. Their whole head blocks the line of scrimmage. So don't be afraid to shift one way or another so you can see everything. It's a great point.
Well, and it's an experience thing too, right? Earlier in my career, I might have, if say a tackle flinched and I had a receiver blocking me, I might have to tell the coach, I couldn't see that. I had a receiver between me and the ball. And now that I'm beyond that, it's like, well, that's really not a valid reasoning whatsoever, right? Whether I'm kind of leaning around, and I find that Michael and I do that a good bit, right? If we have some issue there, it may be a slight lean or just taking that step to where we have the view. I think, Steve, I've adopted your routine. We've talked about this many times. Your pre-snap routine is my pre-snap routine. The only difference that I have is that for me, I get to the line to gain by counting off the numbers for the line of scrimmage to the line to gain. So let's say line of scrimmage is the 41, we have to get to the 44. The way that I do it is I say 3 times to myself, 41, 44, 41, 44, 41, 44. And that's helped us out because Michael and I've had a few plays where the chains take off and there's a penalty and we have no idea where things go. So the box is going, the chains are going. But because in my head, I know 41, 44, we're sticking the box down on the 41. The front stake needs to be at the 44. And so that's what works for me. It's the same thing you said, right? We know what the line to gain is. That's just my personal thing. And I know you've talked about this before, right? You have your routine, but maybe some of the steps you have to personalize to how it works for you. And that's how that aspect of it, that's how that works for me. Yeah.
And you're exactly right. And this is just a base to build from. Change the order, change the verbiage, add stuff, take stuff out, make it your own. Because whatever works for you is what you need to use, not what somebody else is using, right? Let's go through a snap tackle key. Is that right?
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
All right. So we got ourselves moving around so I can see everybody from the ball out on my side. Okay. And I'm watching. I got to clean stuff. Oh, one more thing too is I always want my umpire to be able to see the ball. Right. He can position himself anywhere he wants, but I want him to be able to see the ball because if the ball's on that hash mark on the other side of the field and the field isn't lit very well, I may miss a snap infraction, and I want to make sure that he gets it if I don't get it, because you get different guys jumping and he wiggled the ball, then we're penalizing the wrong guy if we don't see that. So we have to see that. So, but if I'm getting in position, I see everybody from out for the ball out on my side. Got a clean snap. I'm going to snap tackle. My tackle stands up. Okay, so I got to pass. Quarterback turns the other way, right? So the pass is 99% chance the pass is going to go to the other side of the field. So I'm staying. So less than a second, I know what type of play is and where it's going, and I know what I'm doing. I'm going to stay where I'm at, and I'm going to stay on my tackle. I'm going to be aware of where my eligible receiver is, but my primary is going to be my tackle because the play's going the other way, right? We only have 5 guys out there, so we have to optimize who we're watching. We have to watch the guys that are involved in the play, and just kind of be aware of the guys that aren't going to be involved in the play because we don't have enough eyes to see everybody. So we have to kind of do it that way. So now, if we go through the same routine, snap tackle, my tackle stands up, the quarterback turns towards me. Now I have to dump my tackle because I got to find my eligible, right? Because the play was probably going to come to my side of the field. Most probably I'm going to stand right where I'm at, because if I have a slot guy that goes down 5 and comes out, I'm staying right where I'm at, because if I try to slide down, I'm going to be standing right next to him. I'm not going to see anything. I'm way too close. I'm just going to watch him. I'm just going to turn and watch him from where I'm at. If he goes inside or my area is open, I'm going to slide 3 to 5. I'm going to keep my shoulders parallel to the line of scrimmage, so I have this 180-degree view. Can they see me doing this, Michael? You can't see me do this.
Steve is extending both of his arms as one would directing traffic for an airplane.
That's right. So, but I'm sliding down with my shoulders parallel to the sideline, so that I have this 180 degrees view, because as soon as I turn my hips, I cut my vision to 90. I cut it completely in half, right? Up the sideline and straight up to my shoulder, right? I cut my vision in half. And if I just slide down that 3 to 5 and park, right, I can still see what's going on to the left of me and to the right of me, okay? And I still you have to constantly keep an eye on that quarterback, because he's going to tell you where the ball is going. You want to be aware of your eligible, who's going to be, I don't know. I know who your keys are in the mechanics manual, but I don't know how soon you shift, how soon you go to zone. But I'm going to be watching the short guys. Most probably the back judge is going to pick up the deep guy. If I see the quarterback looking deep, as soon as it looks like he's going deep, I'm turning my hips and I'm going, because I got that sideline all the way down. The back judge has no idea if he's in or out. I got to go get that.
Yeah, I treat that the same way here. I don't think the manual really tells me a time that I'm doing it. But I'm not turning, because, as you said, that's going to close down my vision. So I'm not turning until I know I have to, right? When I see that quarterback's eyes looking, and if I have a glance to my left and there's a receiver 40 yards away from any defensive back, it's time to go, right?
Yep.
But, if my receiver is just kind of sitting down 20 yards downfield and there's a safety coming and there's a cornerback there, I'm going to keep that 180 view, so that whatever happens, because who knows what's happening at that point. He could pull it down and take off. There could be somebody coming across the middle. I've got to have the view there. It's only when I can't afford to not get moving is when I'm shutting it down and taking off.
Yep. And your mechanics manual, again, on page 85, it talks about observe keys, read tackle, determine run or pass, stay on the line of scrimmage and until receivers have gone 10 to 12 yards downfield, which is, not a bad way to state that. I'm okay with that. But to change that wording better, I would say you go snap, tackle, and possibly key. You're going to stay there until you know what's going on. What kind of play is it? Is it going to the far side or is it coming to your side, right? And once we know that, then we can, if we need to move, we can move, right? If we don't need to move, we just stay parked, we stay stationary, and just watch everything we can see from that position. And if you have to move, if you have a run up the middle, I try to slide sideways and keep my shoulders parallel as long as I can. If he starts to get away from me, that's absolutely fine. I'm just going to turn my hips, catch up. And a lot of times if they run back and forth across the field, he's running farther than you are, you're going to catch him. And I just turn sideways again. And just to give me that bigger view, because I just feel really restricted when I'm running with my hips turning. I can only see just this little bit in front of me. On a running play, again, it's just snap tackle. My tackle blocks down. If it's coming my way, I'm going to stay on my tackle first, and then the back's coming out towards me. I'm going to watch most blocks out in front of him. I don't need to watch him yet because he's not challenged yet. It'd be wasting my time watching him. I need to watch my tackle block, the next block out. Anything that's downfield to me, I'm really counting on my back judge to switch. If he's on the other side, that he comes to my side and takes all these downfield blocks, because I need to see what's going on the line of scrimmage and maybe the next level right there. Anything downfield, my back judge has got to get. And as he picks up, I'm just going to turn and go with him at that point. So
But on those long runs, so I want the back judge to pick up those downfield blocks. I'm looking point of attack. I'm looking at the runner. I kind of rely on my umpire too. Now, I don't think he's going to have as downfield of a view as the back judge by any means, but he should have some sort of vision as he's turning towards that run to pick up something probably slightly ahead of where I'm able to pick up when I'm looking point of attack. So between the back judge, the umpire, and myself, we should have a pretty good view if there's a hold, right?
Right.
From there, it's that judgment of, is there an advantage gained? Is it point of attack? That's where the experience and the knowledge comes in. But between the three of us, we should be able to pick up a hold on a run that's coming outside towards us.
Yeah, well, the umpire and the back judge, they have a unique view to a different view from us. They're looking inside out, so they see things completely different than we do. So we have that outside in look, and like you said, as the back comes closer to me, I'm narrowing my view to him and blocks immediately in front of him at that point. And then once he gets by, I'm still going to narrow my view onto him, the sideline, and then he blocks in his immediate area, and the umpire taking that inside out view, picking up stuff nearer him, and back judge everything further downfield.
Right.
But I tell you what, this mechanics manual, I don't know who wrote it. I didn't read every word in it, but I'll tell you what, this is a good manual. I like it.
I think it's quite useful. I think one thing you noted that, it's with that 10 to 12 yards receiver downfield, maybe it doesn't make sense to go with that. I think the mechanics manual is a really good starting point. But I think the three of us on this call and a lot of people listening is that there's just a point where the football IQ kind of kicks in, like you said, right? If my receiver is going 20 yards downfield and the quarterback's looking that way, I know my back judge's eyes are going to get over there, right?
Yeah.
Two sets of eyes aren't necessarily needed there. If the quarterback's scrambling towards me, I've got blockers out in front that I have to pick up. If I'm staring 20 yards down the field at a receiver, there's nobody to get that, right?
Right.
I mean, the umpire is probably straight lined by somebody in that process. The referee, chances are, is on the other side or just doesn't have the right view. So I think the mechanics manual, it's a great starting point. Obviously, we'll have 6 or 7 episodes of this podcast devoted to going through the mechanics manual. So absolutely know it, love it, live it. But at some point, the IQ has to kick in of, all right, we have 5 people in high school or even 7 people in college. Where are the holes? What's realistically, what can I cover? What do I have to expect somebody else to pick up for me? And then, officiate based on that too.
Yeah.
Well, one of the things that I always have trouble with, and Steve, maybe you can help, because pre-snap's something about, you can take with you at any level. And I know we're trying to tailor this to high school and even some college, but, I started working, back in the day, CYO even in middle school and all that. One of the things that I struggle with is the less officials I have on the field, the more I want to ball watch, which totally undercuts the entire pre-snap routine. So what are some things that you do? We talked about pre-snap and IQ. How do you keep that in your mind, and how do you prevent yourself from ball watching to prevent your pre-snap from going to pot?
I tell you what, it's hard. It's hard. It really is. And if you talk to anybody out there, they say they don't do it, but they're lying to you. Everybody does it at some point. But you really have to train yourself. You really have to train yourself to look out. If the ball carrier is not challenged, you need to look in front of him, look at this block, rule on it, and clear it, and move up. That's really what you have. Really, what you have to do. You can't get stuck watching the ball, and you have to train yourself to do it. So it's one of those things. Well, a guy going out of bounds, I worked the whole season on when a guy goes out of bounds, and not to look down at my spot, to look out and get my spot with my foot without looking down. I just decided that was what I was going to work on one season in high school, and I spent the whole season on it, and I got it down. And right now I can get a good spot and not look down and just keep my eyes out of bounds. I thought that was going to be easy too, and it was pretty tough because you have that urge to look down at the spot. Same with the ball carrier. Everybody wants to look at the ball carrier. Punt's a good example. The ball carrier is not threatened at all a lot of times until he goes 5-10 yards sometimes, and you have to get off of him and get out to that block in front, clear it, and go move on to the next one. Okay, but it's something you really have to struggle with and train yourself to do until you get it, because it's hard.
Steve, does the change with the RPO, does that affect your snap tackle read? And the example I'll give, so I was at a clinic a month or so ago with some brand new officials, right? Some folks who want to work line of scrimmage. And I was the experienced guy who knows what I'm doing. So I'm going through this and I'm like, all right, let's watch the snap. Let's watch what our tackle does. So we've got the snap, the tackle stands straight up and takes a step back. So I said, all right, tackle's up, we got to pass. And within half a second, it was a fullback dive. The quarterback stops their hands off. It's a fullback dive. So I read it as a pass, but it's clearly a run. It didn't really have an impact on how I would have officiated the play. It's just, when I'm trying to train somebody to go through the old standard, well, tackle stands up and goes back, we've got a pass play. If tackle moves forward and goes beyond the line of scrimmage, it's going to be a run. And that's not really true. A lot of times it's still going to be true, but it's not always going to be true anymore. And I don't know if that affects the pre-snap routine or if it impacts your routine or what your thoughts are there.
I don't change my pre-snap routine for something like that. I just, if I know that it is an RPO team, I'm frightened because you never know where the ball is, number one. And like you said, the tackle's not going to tell you, but so you really have to pay attention to what's going on in front of you. And again, don't move until you know what's going on. Okay. So if it looks like, even though if your tackle stands up and it looks like a pass, but your quarterback's riding the ball through to the fullback and he gives it to him, you almost have to read that, right? And something else we have to be very, very aware of is this ineligibles downfield, because a lot of times the linemen are blocking like it's a running play and he pulls it out and throws it, right? And you have to make sure. Now in high school, it's a 2-yard. They can go 2 yards. Beyond 2 yards, they're ineligible downfield. But that's when the ball comes out of his hand. And if you have a good quarterback, well, watch some of Alabama from a couple of years ago. They pulled it out when Hurt was there. He pulls it out and throws it, and you swear that those tackles are ineligible downfield. But if you run it back slow, they're right at the mark. And if they run a good RPO, you have trouble finding the ball. You have trouble reading the play, and you also have trouble with ineligibles downfield. And you just have to be aware of what's going on and read what you're seeing, understand what you're seeing, and be slow on your flag, right? Because if you can't tell if he's ineligible downfield, and if you have to think about it, what do you got, Mike? If you have to stop and think about it, right? You got nothing, right?
Right.
So if you have to think about it that long, just keep your flag in your pocket. But there's no magic bullet for that RPO. That's just a hard play to officiate, just because so many things could happen. But that's why it works so well. But it's hard to run too, so you don't see a lot on Friday.
Slow flags and slow whistles on those.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I probably should talk about that flag inadvertent whistle. Oh, I shouldn't have said that. Don't blow your. You got to see, if you don't see the ball on the ground, don't blow your whistle. It's real easy. Well, it's not easy. It's hard, but if you don't see the ball, even if I have a guy tackled at my feet, if I can't see the ball, I don't blow the whistle. I let somebody else blow it. Somebody inside out that might be able to see it. Maybe they're back to me and I can't see it. I'll go stand on a spot. But I'm going to wait for an umpire, referee, back judge, somebody inside out to hit a whistle and let me know that it's dead, and then I'll put my arm up. But I can't see the ball, I don't blow the whistle. I'd rather have a play with no whistle than have an inadvertent whistle. That's just, If you don't see it, don't blow it.
Yeah, we've already had a triple option team this year, so we had our discussion beforehand. That's one of those where our umpire usually is not going to blow the whistle, but if he gives his hand up, that's the signal for me and Michael. He's got the ball, it's on the ground, plays over, and that's how we know to whistle. But if we've got that and I can't see the ball and I don't have the umpire with his hand up, the whistle's not going near my mouth.
Hey, let me give your listener something to talk about in pregame Friday.
Sure.
Okay.
Sure.
And Michael, we talked about this a little bit over at UC, and Tom didn't like our conversation, but let's go snap tackle. Okay. I got snap tackle. My tackle stands up. The quarterback turns the other way. All right. So I'm standing on my tackle. Pass is going the other way. So what's that line of scrimmage guy doing? He's watching his eligible, right? So the referee might be on my side looking through the quarterback and helping with that tackle, right? Well, let's reverse that. We go snap tackle. My tackle stands up. Quarterback turns my way. All right. And my way. So I have to dump the tackle, take my eligible. And and again, if the referee's on my side, he's looking through helping on the other tackle. So now we have two sets of eyes on that tackle and no set of eyes on this tackle. And this is a conversation I've had with a high school crew too. Is talk about who's watching what in that scenario. What's your referee looking at? What's your line scrimmage guys looking at? Because if the referee takes the play side tackle on a pass, both of those tackles are covered. If he's only looking through to the opposite side, if he's looking the opposite of the play, then there's two sets of eyes on that tackle. This one is running free essentially because the umpire's got guard, center guard. He's got his hands full with his three guys, and this tackle can essentially get away with most anything. He's not going to be watched. So a conversation starter for a pregame Friday.
The short answer could be 8-man in high school. That might say.
Or 7 anyway.
Steve, I really appreciate it. This is a great jumping off point. Ryan and I kind of started doing this thing, trying to get through the mechanics manual and just give our listeners something to chew on and talk about in their pre-games. And I think introducing the pre-snap today was absolutely fantastic. Is there anything else you kind of want to leave our listeners with here, and just any more nuggets of knowledge?
No, just keep your mind engaged, man. If you want to move up, if you want to get better, man, you have to keep your mind engaged. Don't stand and just let your mind wander. If your mind's wandering, then you're not doing your job. There's just too many things to be watching out there. And watch your dead ball stuff. Where are you standing? How are you standing? What are you doing? You'd be surprised who's watching, and you'd be surprised what they see. And the dead ball stuff will get you just as fast as the other stuff will. Good luck.
Awesome. Thank you, Steve.
Well, Steve, we want to thank you again for joining us. As I said at the start, I learn something every time I talk with you or listen to you. And so I appreciate that. I know that there are certain philosophical aspects of officiating or things, we talked about it somewhat flippantly, but, we could have a discussion on spots and probably have 2 or 3 parts to a podcast just talking about spots and the like. So hopefully sometime down the line, you'll have time and we could get together again and have that discussion, because that applies. Spots are spots, high school, college, Pee Wee League, no matter what you're doing. But, just those types of things that get our minds working together. So, Steve, thank you again for your time and for helping us out and giving us a lot of good wisdom to share with officials. Again, pre-snap routines are important. Again, whether it's that Pee Wee League, high school, college, wherever you're working, you have responsibilities, and going through that routine helps to make sure that we check those off play after play consistently from first quarter to the last snap of the fourth quarter. With all that said, though, we want to thank you all for joining us once again for this episode of Learn Your Stripes. We'll be back next week where we'll discuss free kicks, scrimmage plays, and much more. For now, though, we'll leave you with a play to consider.
All right, the clock is running with 43 seconds left in the second quarter, with A having 2nd and 10 at the B34. A10 completes a pass to A87, who's tackled in bounds at the A27. Following that play, A tries to quickly snap the ball. A87 and A17 run toward their spots on the wings, but never quite get set prior to the snap. So this kind of feeds into what we're talking about today. What's the foul? What are the options, if there's any? What's the difference between high school and college, if any? What's the down and distance going to be? What's the game clock? And what's the play clock?
We'll discuss that play at the start of the next episode. In the meantime, if you want to let us know what your ruling would be, or if you have any questions or feel we made a mistake, please email us at learnyourstripes@gmail.com. You can find episodes or obtain an RSS link to directly download all episodes into your podcast app of choice at learnyourstripespodcast.com. Please also follow us on Facebook at Learn Your Stripes Podcast and on Twitter at LYS_podcast. If you enjoy the podcast, please rate us 5 stars and leave a review on Apple Podcasts or your app of choice. We've also started a channel on the app Discord, where we can have ongoing discussions of rules, mechanics, and play scenarios. Separate channels are set up for high school and college discussions, as well as the plays of the week. We'll see you back here next week. In the meantime, keep learning your stripes.
Thank you, everyone.